York City. Evan and Tiki. Tiki is on another continent. He is in Europe. He'll be back next week. So we're here for the next 4.5 hours. A lot to get to. Sean will tell us every Giant and Jet cut that matters because today is cut down day. By 4 o'clock Eastern time, football teams need to have their roster set at 53 for now. Then they're going to change it over the next couple of days. So we'll get to that as the show rolls on. Why the Met math is making me very, very scared over the next couple of weeks. But I think we have hit a high water mark in terms of Yankee fan confidence right now. They won again yesterday against the Nationals. They are now 2 games up on the Orioles in the American League East and 2 games up on the best record in the American League. And that matters. The Yankees have not gone into a postseason with the best record in their league since 2012. It has been a long time since record-wise the Yankees have gone into a postseason as the team to beat. And I think right now, if you poll Yankee fans, they are probably at their most confident that they've been at any point this season. And it does make me wonder, because for many, many years, it's been they better win the World Series. If they don't win the World Series, it's a disaster. You bring up 2003, you bring up 2001, Yankee fans do not have positive memories. They think about how it ended. But for a franchise that has not seen a World Series since 2009, has that bar changed? So you tell me, Sean, if this team gets to a World Series and then loses, is that enough? Or will you be doing what you've done every year for the last 5 years? And by you, I mean you and Yankee fans. Yeah. Calling for the manager's head, calling for the GM's head, saying everybody's broken and this sucks. Is that enough?
I have right of refusal to change this opinion if and when the time comes.
Of course.
I think it's a complete success if they make the World Series and lose. It's a complete successful season. For no other reason, Evan, you know why we're sky high with confidence right now?
Go ahead.
Sure, it's Aaron Judge raking with every at-bat and making unbelievable plays in center. Sure, it's Juan Soto. Sure, it's the pitching and Garrett Cole coming together. But my confidence is because the American League stinks. And any other year with a behemoth in the American League besides the Yankees, I would be really nervous and already pre-aggravated about the whole march to a potential World Series. But my confidence in the Yankees has strictly to do with the American League. And any flaw I point out at the Yankees, and they have plenty, I could point out a bigger flaw on all these other teams. So for me, I'm okay and satisfied. I know this team has flaws if they go to the World Series and lose. Now, another reason I'd be satisfied with that, I don't view this as a one-year window, and this isn't even a Soto conversation. I'm talking about the Judge, Cole, what they've built up here. The idea that they finally would exercise some demons and get to a fall classic, to me, would give me hope that the beginning is now yet to come.
Yeah, so here's why I'll tell you you're dead wrong. And it has nothing to do with trying to make the Yankees what they were 20 years ago. It has to do with how difficult it is to get there.
It is.
And I say this as a Met fan, as a guy that's rooted for losers, teams that need to get lucky to go on a postseason run. Because the Mets aren't in the postseason a lot. And in 2015, they were not in the postseason as the team to beat. In fact, if you remember back to that postseason, there were a handful of teams that were supposed to be better. The L.A. Dodgers were supposed to be better. The Chicago Cubs were supposed to be better. Okay. The St. Louis Cardinals, before they got eliminated, was supposed to be better. So the Mets get hot at the right time. They go on a run. They're in the World Series against the Kansas City Royals. And I remember that attitude was among some Met fans. Like, hey, I'm just happy to be here. This is amazing. What a great run. We got a good young roster. This isn't a one-year thing. We'll be back. I didn't tell them the Mets won't be back because I knew Matt Harvey was going to get hurt or I knew Noah Syndergaard would flame out. I said it because it's really, really hard to get to a World Series. I think the Yankees are proof of that more than any other franchise. They're in the playoffs almost every single year, and yet they haven't been there since 2009. So I know it's a new taste because you haven't had it in a long time, but if you get there, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is, you have to finish the job because it's so tough to get there.
I'll, of course, be disappointed if they don't win a World Series, but we're talking about whether it's a failure or not. It's been a failure that this team hasn't gone to a World Series since 2009. They need to at least get there and play there. Now, this is another thing where I bring up the right of refusal. You bring up, oh, it doesn't matter who they play. I think it does. If they play the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I'll even say the Philadelphia Phillies, who have been in the World Series more recently, and they lose a hard-fought, they don't get spanked. They go lose a 6-7 game series where they have their moments. I will be disheartened. I will be upset. But ultimately, I'll just look back and go, they lost to a better team. if the Yankees meet the Padres, who they just traded with for Juan Soto, if they meet the Diamondbacks, who I know they were there a year ago, and one of those teams goes on a little magic carpet ride, and this Yankee team with Soto and Judge loses to one of those teams, then yes, it is a failure. I think opponent matters, and I still think the two ultimate, and I know that, recent play maybe not dictated, the two ultimate best teams in baseball still reside in the National League, so if they lose to one of those two teams, I have to just tip my cap and go, it's not a failure.
Let me get this right now. All right, so, because I think we'd all agree, I think it's easy to say, especially with the state of the American League right now, they have to get to a World Series.
Yeah.
We've seen this team get to ALCSs. They lost the 7th game in 17. They lost the 6th game in 19. They got annihilated in 2022. They have to get to a World Series.
You might have 3 teams out of the 6 out of the Central who the Yankees basically crush anytime they see a playoff.
No, I get it. And everybody's flawed. I mean, even the Big Daddy Houston Astros have flaws.
I mean, nobody considers them the Big Daddy anymore. They have major flaws.
They are the Big Daddy. You're the Big Daddy because you haven't beat them. They're the Big Daddy because you need to exercise those demons against them.
The Gary Sanchez Yankees haven't beat them. These Yankees wiped the floor with them in 2 series.
You're really citing the regular season?
Yeah, isn't that what we're playing for?
You played them in the ALCS 2 years ago after Aaron Judge's historic year.
Different teams. I've been telling you since March, Evan, and I don't want to hear about it. These are Joe Espada's Astros now. I don't care that Jose Altuve's over there. The Astros don't fear.
That was Dusty Baker's Astros. It wasn't even AJ Hinch's Astros.
It doesn't matter. The point is, I don't care. You can disagree with me all you want. The Yankees already flexed their muscle and proved these Astros are nothing to them. Step on them like
but that's just not true. Like, look, can they beat them in a series? Of course they can. You can't dismiss the Astros as they're just any other team based on regular season when the Astros weren't even playing their best baseball.
It's just so much of a different Astro team now. They
were so much of a different Astro team in 2022 or even last year. Last year they were in the ALCS. The American League Championship Series has actually been renamed. It's called the Astros Invitational. You have to at least put some respect on their name. You don't have to be like Keith, who I heard earlier. Keith, and I respect it, basically says, I don't want to play the Astros. I'm afraid of the Astros.
Yeah,
I respect that. And you don't have to be that. You don't have to be afraid of the Astros, but you do need to respect them.
Hold on,
and not dismiss them because you swept them in March. You literally swept them in March.
And then you took 3 of 4 at Yankee Stadium in May.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Point is,
that was an eternity ago.
I respect the organization. Well, kind of not. I mean, they're still a cheating organization.
That was a long time ago.
I haven't really seen a clean World Series. I respect Jose Altuve.
They haven't seen a clean World Series?
Yeah.
They won the World Series in 2022. Does that not count?
I'm never going to be convinced anything they want is good.
Oh, stop it.
I don't know what they got going on over there. Theatrics and antics.
I respect would never allow cheating.
Okay. I look at this Astro team. It's not that I don't respect them. It's I don't fear them. If the Yankees draw the Astros in a postseason this year, I'll be utterly disappointed if they're what they did in the regular season, if they don't beat them in the postseason. There will be 0 nails bitten in the Bronx when facing the Houston Astros.
No, there should be nails bitten.
It's about who you might lose to in the World Series.
It doesn't mean you can't beat them. Of course, the Yankees can beat the Houston Astros, but as long as that 5'7" Venezuelan god is still playing baseball for the Houston Astros, and I think you know who I'm referring to?
Jose Altuve.
Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
As long as he's there, you need to at least look at them as not just any other American League team. They are the daddy. Loogie said they're your final boss, borrowing from The Rock. And he's right. It's one thing we actually do agree on.
You are an IBO.
They are that final boss.
You are an IBO, so maybe this is more directed at Lugauer. But what is with all the non-Yankee fans trying to tell us who we should fear and who's our daddy?
Well, no, in fairness, some Yankee fans do. I just said Keith McPherson has been honest about it.
If you fear them,
said, I don't want to play them.
If you fear them by default because you're looking at the other playoff teams in the AL. I'm just telling you I don't. And it would be absolutely a failure of a season if this Yankee team lost to this Astros team.
Okay, couple of things. Yes, I think we could all agree that, and this has been the case for a while now, they have to get to the World Series.
Yeah.
Losing at any point against any of these teams in the American League would be a failure. First of all, the Baltimore Orioles are trying to prove they can do this in October. They've also been very mediocre for a while now. They're ravaged by injuries in their rotation.
And Craig Kimbrell's their close.
Yes. Well, he isn't anymore, but he's still there.
Okay. He's still counted on to get most of their, majority of the big outs.
The American League Central, completely agree. And losing to the Astros for what I count as the 4th time in a postseason series would be absolutely devastating. So we all agree they have to get through the American League. The only thing we disagree on is that the Astros are not as easy as you're trying to describe it. They are the big daddy you've got to get past.
Nothing's easy. They're just not a big daddy. They're just going to be a formidable opponent that the Yankees are better than, that the Yankees absolutely should win 4 games before they win 4 games.
Well, they should, because if they don't, it's an unmitigated disaster.
But the question is it a failure of a season if they don't win the World Series? It's not if you go lose to one of the National League behemoths and you got there. It's not a failure.
So if
anymore.
they lose a 7-game series to the Atlanta Braves, who will make the postseason as much as people want to argue with me about that, they always do.
Can't
and they've already proven they can get hot at the right time, like they did in 2021. If you lose to the Atlanta Braves, what say you?
Failure. I'm giving you Phillies and Dodgers.
That's a failure?
Can't. Well, see,
If you
cannot take any shine away from 96 and 99.
If you lose a 7-game series to the reigning and defending National League champions, the red-hot Arizona Diamondbacks, you say failure.
Failure.
If you lose a series to Michael King and Kyle Higashioka and the San Diego Padres.
Not only is it a failure, that's my worst fear of this postseason.
That's your worst fear.
Could you imagine trading for Juan Soto with this team and surrendering all that, and then they beat us?
Well, sometimes it happens. I mean,
No.
the Nationals won a World Series after they lost Bryce Harper. Sometimes that happens.
But they didn't lose to the Phillies. You know
If
what I mean?
you lose a World Series to the very underrated but central leading Milwaukee Brewers,
Oh, God.
failure.
Failure. I mean,
Okay.
you remember when I deleted my Twitter after the Rangers lost?
I do remember that.
You may not see me in this building for 2 weeks if they lost a World Series to the Brewers.
Really, the Brewers would do that.
Oh,
all right.
The Milwaukee Brewers.
Now, I want to get to something that you suggested that I find sacrilegious, that I find deeply offensive, and I think many of your fans are going to find offensive too. You said that losing to the Philadelphia Phillies would be okay?
That's not what I said.
You said
That's not what I
losing to
said.
the Philadelphia Phillies wouldn't be a failure?
It wouldn't be. Doesn't mean it's okay. It wouldn't be a failure of a season. It would not be a failure of a season. It would suck for the city to watch Philly again celebrate after the Knicks righted the ship versus them.
Yes.
It would suck if their faux cheeks basically tried to punch me and Tiki Barber's lights out, knowing that he's probably a Phillies fan.
Saquon Barkley will be at Citizens Bank Park wearing a Philly jersey, cheering the entire time.
Because
You're
he'll
okay
be
with
banged
that.
up and out of Eagle practice by then. No, look, this is two different things.
It's not two different things.
You're asking me, are you asking me, am I going to be emotionally okay as a fan? No. The question was, will it be a failure of a season? It is not a failure of a season if the team loses a long series to either the Phillies or Dodgers in a World Series.
Yeah, I disagree with you about that. I really do. I think that
Times have changed.
Times have changed. And here's where times have changed to prove my point. Times have changed that when I grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, and a lot of people listening may have grown up or maybe they've heard about it if you're in your 20s. You've read about 1996 and 1998 and 1999 and 2000 and even 2001 and even 2003. Here's the difference. It felt easy to get to the World Series. I'm not saying it was, Sean, but it felt that way.
They made it look easy, right?
It felt like going to the World Series, well, it's normal. It's a part of our everyday life. And when you lose a World Series, like the Yankees did in 2001, I think your mindset, after being at how many in a row, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, was, we'll be back. I remember George Steinbrenner actually saying that after the game, we'll be back. And he was sort of right, because 2 years later, they were back. And I think that there's this mindset that we had that, hey, it's a crapshoot. Get there, take our chances. Except that crapshoot is such a lottery that getting there is really, really hard. And the Yankees haven't been there. And so if you get there, I completely disagree that the opponent matters. Yes, I respect the LA Dodgers. Yes, we all respect the Philadelphia Phillies.
But if you lose to a team that's better than you, Evan, in a World Series and you got there.
Are they?
For the same reason, I would feel like my window's wide open. I respect that the Phillies got there 2 years ago.
Hold on.
Sustain this.
Are the Philadelphia Phillies that much better than the New York Yankees? Are they?
If you were to ask me to pick which roster I prefer, I would pick the Phillies roster.
It's close. It's not as if the Phillies are some kind of juggernaut.
Dude, I didn't tell you if the Phillies sweep them, it's disappointing. I'm talking about a long series versus a team that's better than you. That's not a failure.
It is, because then when you lick your wounds and you get over it,
what are you going to come out next year and go 81 and 81 now?
I didn't say they're going to go 81 and 81, but I think the odds of them getting back there are very tough. And how do I know that? Because they haven't been there in 15 years. And that's for everybody. That's not a pick on the New York Yankees. That's my team, too.
This team's mental hurdle, dude. The whole team's mental hurdle under Aaron Boone is not being able to get through the LCS and get to a World Series. I think if they're able to do that, look at another opponent, take them on a long series. I don't think this is one of those scenarios where it's like football, where you lose the Super Bowl, you come back and you're screwed. I think all of us will be re-energized to March going, they can do this. Where right now we're still skeptical on whether they could do it. Losing a long, hard-fought World Series is not a failure of a season the way it used to be with the Yankees. It's a breathe of a sigh of relief that this team led by Aaron Judge is capable of climbing that mountain.
So I'll use another example to try to get through your beautiful bald head right now.
It is beautiful.
The Los Angeles Dodgers are perennially
Chokers.
the best team in baseball during the regular season every single year. Even this year, here they are. All of a sudden, you wake up, they're 78-53. The LA Dodgers actually have a better record than the Yankees. It's only by a half game, but they have the best record in all of baseball, and perennially, that's what they do. How'd they do in the postseason in 2021?
I forgot.
I'll remind you,
Please
they got
do.
eliminated in the National League Championship Series by the Atlanta Braves.
That's right. Okay.
How did they do in 2022? They got eliminated in the divisional
But
series.
they won a World Series.
I get that, but it's a reminder how difficult it is to get there.
No kidding. It's
So
difficult.
once you get there, you have to seal the deal. And the other thing I didn't even bring up, which I'm sure a lot of people want to bring up, at 888-808-1019.
Nice look.
You don't know what this roster looks like next year. We'll get into it a little bit later on. You don't know if Juan Soto's going to be on this team.
Yeah.
You don't know if Garrett Cole's going to stay healthy.
All right.
And I never want to doubt Aaron Judge because he continues to do like stupidly, comically insane things on a baseball field. But if we're being honest and fair, we don't know what he's going to be next
He could
year.
get hurt. And look, I think it will become nauseating if we're about to take hours of phone calls on whether Juan Soto is going to be a Yankee or a Met. Thank you, Jeff Passan. I will just say this. If the Yankees make a World Series and lose, you need your head examined if you think Juan Soto is not going to be a part of this team next year. Head examined. They will not be outbid for Juan Soto. If they get that close to tasting it, they're not going to go, oh, yeah, please go across town. We won't top that offer. Are you crazy?
I will tell you this about Juan Soto, and we'll get into it as the show rolls on. I think that we overthink this way too much. We overthink. No, we overthink if the Yankees go here, he won't leave or he will leave.
No, it's
if
about the Yankees.
Mets go here, he won't come.
You're
It has
misunderstanding.
nothing to do with anything.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with Juan Soto's thoughts. It has everything to do with the Yankees' thoughts. If the Yankees lost in a wild card round or something like that, and maybe Steinbrenner goes, look, we don't really need this to get to our ultimate goal. If they come close to tasting a World Series, and they're in the World Series, Hal Steinbrenner is not going to look at Juan Soto and go, we can't not give you the high. He's going to say, we need to get there.
Let me get this straight, 'cause I am trying to follow your bouncing ball logic.
Sure.
You're trying to say if the Yankees, let's say the Yankees lose the division by a game. It happens. Or they don't even lose it by a game. They finish in a tie. But the Orioles have the tiebreaker, right? And now they're forced to play a best-of-3 series against the wild card Cleveland Guardians.
Right.
Because the Royals won the division. And they lose. They flukily lose. You're trying to say that would make Hal less likely to pay Juan Soto than if they got to the World Series and lost in the 7th game?
I want to make things really clear before Anthony Gallo and Digital tries to change this, okay?
Go ahead.
I don't believe that Hal Steinbrenner is going to be outbid for Juan Soto under any circumstance.
Fine.
But I think it becomes especially paramount the further they go in tasting a World Series championship and then come short, if you will.
We will get to Juan Soto because Jeff Passan, the premier baseball reporter, had some new reporting on the impending free agency of Juan Soto. We'll get to as the show rolls on. We'll talk to you at 888-808-1019. I think a part of this is Yankee expectations, but a part of this is baseball. It is very, very difficult to get to a World Series. And if you get there, you best damn win it. Because if you don't, you may not see it for a long time. And if you don't believe me, look in the mirror. The Yankees haven't seen it since 2009. The Mets haven't seen it since 2015. Your call's next, 888-808-1019.